Hey friends, welcome back to Channeling Chinez. For those of you who are viewing this on YouTube, it is vertical because I am posting it on all of my platforms. It is a message that I want everyone to hear. So thank you for listening or watching and just overall tuning back into Channeling Chinez. This message is something that I hope frees many people from frustration, from self-hate, from low self-esteem, and overall from mental torment. If there isn't anything that you take away from my platform, this is the one video that I definitely need you to hear. So you've heard the phrase mind, body, soul. Mind, body, soul. And we have been taught that we are mind, body, soul. The difference is we were taught incorrectly. We have a mind, we have a body, we are soul. We have a mind, we have a body, we are soul. So what does that mean? That means that the body that we were given and even the mind that we have does not define who we are. In life, we are only here to learn the lessons that we need to learn so that we can get to a higher place. But there are two kinds of lessons that we learn. Some are for the mind, which is what we have, not who we are, and other lessons are for the soul, and that's who we are. The way that we fuck up as human beings is we apply lessons that are only for the mind to the soul, and lessons that are for the soul we apply to the mind. And I'm gonna give you a very simplistic way of looking at this so that you can understand. First, you need to understand what the mind is and how the mind works. What is the mind? The mind is a tool that we use to navigate our earthly experience as human beings. And the mind is simply duality. We like it, we don't like it. We want to do it, we do want to do it. The sky is blue, the grass is green. That's what the mind does. It just makes a decision based on duality and duality alone. We also have our ego that exists within the mind. And the ego is what? An amalgamation of our personality and experiences. And our personality is what is created from our experiences. Does that make sense? But a lot of the times, we as human beings believe that we are our personality, we are our ego, and we are the mind. When the mind, which encompasses all of those things, is just a tool that we have. Here is how we apply a mind lesson to the soul and a soul lesson to the mind. This may be the only thing that you need to hear all day that will free you from suffering. Listen to me. This is the easiest example that I can give you. When you're a child, your mind is still developing. Your mind doesn't know how to be human yet. Your mind is still trying to make sense of your 3D environment. And let's say as a child, you notice a hair curling iron. You notice it. Your mind says, I'm gonna focus on this hair curling iron, or I'm not gonna focus on this hair curling iron. Let's say you choose to focus on it. The mind says, I'm either gonna touch this hair curling iron, or I'm not gonna touch this hair curling iron. Let's say you decide, see, it's just duality, I am or I'm not, to touch the hair curling iron. You grab it with your whole hand, and the body tells you, fuck, that's hot. And it sends that signal to the mind, fuck, that's hot, it's burning me. And you let it go. Now, this is just simply a lesson for your mind. Your mind just learned what a hair curling iron is, that it can physically burn your body, and that you do not like being burned. That's a mind lesson. Here is how we wrongfully apply those lessons to our soul. Sometimes we internalize these lessons and say, well, I must not be very smart if I allowed myself to be burned. Incorrect. Incorrect. The lesson was only for the mind to understand how to navigate more safely in a human experience. It has absolutely nothing to do with who you actually are, which is only your soul. It's like trying to play soccer with basketball rules. It's just not how you play soccer. You have to play soccer with a soccer rule book. You have to play basketball with a basketball rule book. Does that make sense? So you don't apply lessons for the mind to the soul, and you don't apply lessons for the soul to the mind. Burning your hand has nothing to do and is not a measure of who you are. It was just a lesson to be learned. In the next video, I'm going to explain to you how we apply soul lessons to the mind. Here are the ways that we apply lessons that are for our soul to the mind, and we think is a decision that we need to make when it is really a soul lesson that we need to learn and feel. In the previous example, I explained to you how the mind works, and that the mind is just duality. The mind is I like it, I don't like it. I want to see it, I don't want to see it. I think it's cool, I don't think it's cool. That's what the mind is. But the soul is the essence of who we are. And the biggest way we learn soul lessons is through our relationships. So the example that I'm going to give you is a common one that people may deal with in relationships, whether they're romantic or non-romantic. For this example, I'm going to use a romantic example. Let's say that you, as a soul being, come into union with another soul. Let's say you're having a relationship, a romantic relationship with another person, and you and that person decide that you are going to be physically monogamous within your relationship. You and that other person decide that you're going to be physically monogamous in your relationship, which means that you have made the soul contract with that individual to be exclusive. Then you find yourself in a situation where you're attracted to another human being. Why? Because you're still a human, so you're still having an animal experience. So you finding other people attractive is highly expected, highly normal. And then your mind is faced with a decision if you're going to act on these physical sensations or if you're not going to act on the physical sensations. Duality. I either am going to act on it or I'm not going to act on it. And let's say this individual chooses to act on it. That was a decision that you made in the mind. But you made a soul commitment with your partner to not do that. And so the ways that we try to escape that soul lesson is by saying, well, that's not the way that I felt. And just because I did this and I made this decision, I don't feel that way towards this person, so therefore it shouldn't matter. That's a decision that you're making in your mind. You're trying to rationalize a soul lesson in the mind with duality by saying, I do or I don't care about this. It does or it does not matter to me. It was important or it wasn't important. It was just a physical thing that I needed to do, and that's it. When the issue is the commitment that you made with your soul and that other person. And the lesson that you need to look at is, what does this mean about me and my soul to violate this level of integrity and this trust that I created with another person? Instead of trying to excuse it with duality of the mind, instead of trying to run away from the responsibility and understanding why you made that decision, despite your human reaction, despite the fact that you are still an animal and a spiritual being at the same time, and you made a decision and it's having an impact at the soul level with your relationship with this other person. Your soul lesson is to understand why this action does or does not align with who you want to be and who you feel like you are. Perhaps that lesson is being honest and your level of honesty. Perhaps that lesson is self-control. Perhaps that lesson is trust and keeping a promise. Whatever it is, it's a lesson for your soul. It's not something for your mind to decide. And that's the way that we mess things up. And so what's the overall message here? What is my biggest takeaway for you to learn? At the end of the day, we are soul. This body that we have is just our vehicle we get to drive around with. This human experience that we have comes with a mind that we use as a tool to navigate our experiences. But at the end of the day, we're just soul. And so everything that we go through at the soul level are lessons so that we can get to a better place in our lives. So stop applying lessons for the mind to the soul and lessons for the soul to the mind. Understand that you are not your mind. You are not everything that this mind thinks. It's just a machine doing what the machine does. Free yourself from thinking that you're your body. Free yourself from thinking that you're the mind, and be the soul. And I promise you, everything else will fall into place.